Hello and welcome to our journey across the Red Sea. If you stick with me, I can get you safely across the Red Sea in about an hour. But you have to come and listen to every word and every scripture, and it paints a picture. And you'll see all the pictures and all the scriptures showing that this really did happen. At the end of the first 3,000 years of our existence, he split the eastern sea. At the end of the second half, 6,000 years, he splits the eastern sky, gets big and better. So join us as we look into his word of life. Well, praise the Lord. This is the crossing of the Red Sea. And why am I going about crossing the Red Sea? Well, I've been reading the Bible since 71. But in 2000, about almost 30 years later, I'd been to Israel twice. And after my second trip, one morning I was getting up early to get my verbs in. Black brother told me 50 years ago, man, you got to get your verbs in every day. He meant Proverbs. He would shorten everything, you know. So I would read chapter of Proverbs every day according to the day of the month. There's 31 usually days in a month, and there's 31 chapters. Now I go by the Hebrew months, and it helps me keep it, by reading a chapter a day according to the Hebrew, the new moon. So I started doing that. And so I was getting my verbs in one morning because I'm a roofing contractor for the last 47 years, so I got to beat the heat. I got to get started early in the morning. So I got up early, got my verbs in. I'm sitting in my living room, and the Lord spoke, a small, still voice spoke to me 13 words. I heard it. I believe all lives, including born-again, spirit-filled lives, have their place in the lake that burneth with fire and brimstone forever. Have no rest day or night. No rest, right? Forever and ever and ever. That's what it says. I believe that. So I'm not trying to fabricate anything. I'm telling you what happened. You're listening to every syllable that I say by the vibrating side, bombarding your eardrums right now, okay? But a small, still voice is another dimension we don't even realize exists until it happens to you. It's a spiritual world. And your spiritual ear is hearing it, and it's different. All I know is I heard 13 words early. I'm just sitting there in my living room, and I hear, you will find Pharaoh's chariot on the Saudi side of the Red Sea. Saudi side of the Red Sea? Man, so I remember I had just been in Israel a few weeks earlier on my second trip. I took the retired chief policeman, head of police of Grand Prairie, and a pastor to Israel, and all over the place and everything. We went down a lot and got in a yacht, went down in the Gulf of Aqaba. And I got a map. I asked the guy if I could keep the depth chart of the map he had of the Gulf of Aqaba because he had a boat. So the shallowest part of the entire Gulf of Aqaba is opposite to Nuweiba Beach on the Saudi shore. Makes perfect sense. That's that they would cross there and come up on the shallowest part. So I didn't want to go and get I never wanted to scuba dive because I'm a real impatient guy. I drive up to red lights, look both ways for cops, and keep going because it's impeding my forward progress. I'm trying to get ahead in the world. I'm just trying to get ahead. So, but I figured I'd get the bends because I'd go up too quick. But I went and I got certified as an underwater diver in Texas. Then I went to Eilat, Israel, and did 5 dives with 4 IDF soldiers and got advanced. Then I went to Egypt. The only time I've ever been to Egypt was in 2000. So I went down to Egypt. And I've got all these stuff down there in 2000. I'm going to show it to you. But I'm going to start with the Exodus. Moses and Aaron went into the Pharaoh and said, Thus saith Yahweh of Elohim of Israel, Let my people go that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness. We wanted to hold a feast here. He wanted to hold the feast in the wilderness. Pharaoh said, Who is Yahweh that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I don't know Yahweh, neither will they let him go. Oh, really? And they, Moses and Aaron, said, The Elohim of the Hebrews hath met with us. We'll have a supernatural experience with the creator of every atom in the universe, he says. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days' journey into the desert, to keep a feast now, in the desert, and sacrifice to Yahweh Elohim, lest he fall on us. Moses and Aaron, his fair-haired little children, with the pestilence of the sword. Oh, you don't know what he's like? He gave us a choice, multiple choice. We can keep his feast or the pestilence or the sword. That's why I always tell people, either keep the feast or be a feast. Pharaoh and his men didn't keep the feast. They were the feast. They were fish food. Okay? So I'm just saying, you're going to either keep the feast. You got a choice out there. Well, apparently all y'all made the right choice. Keeping the feast. That's good. Okay? And Yahweh said to Moses, Rise up early and stand before Pharaoh and say to him, Thus saith Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, Let my people go that they may serve me. This is after 6 plagues. Now, he's already hit them with 6 plagues. For with this time send all my plagues upon thine heart, and upon thy servants, upon thy people, and that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth. And now I'll stretch out my hand that I may smite thee and thy people with pestilence, thou shalt be cut up and buried. And in very deed, for this cause have I raised thee up. Raised you up. Pharaoh. Who was Pharaoh back then? Number one dude in the world. Everybody goes back to Pharaoh and the reigning pharaohs, and they were number one in the world. They weren't far from the cradle of civilization in Iraq, but they were in Egypt, and they were number one. They made gigantic pyramids. They had everything. They were number one in the world back then. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Sukkot. That's after, the last plague. They got plagued. Everybody died. Everybody with the firstborn died, but nobody died in Israel that was keeping the feast, right? They all made it. About 600,000 men besides women, besides children. But Elohim, when he leads them out, he doesn't lead them by the way of the wilderness. He led them about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and Israel went up harnessed out of the land. I'm going to have to show you this. The children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses, which is where they were camping and living, to Sukkot, about 600,000 foot besides men. That's why we keep Sukkot, because when I brought you out of Egypt, I made you dwell in Sukkot, in booths, but I made you dwell in the town called booths. And it came to pass when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God led them not through the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. I'm going to show you pictures. In fact, I'll go right here. Didn't lead them by the way of the Philistines, because they come out of Goshen. They had the best land. Notice how this is not touched up. That's the only greenery you'll see over in Egypt. Egypt's desolate. It doesn't even rain in Egypt. Egypt doesn't get rain, except when it's plaguing. But there's Goshen. That gets water and precipitation. He didn't live by the way of the Philistines, although that was near. That's plain, man. You can just go real quick. But it led him to the wilderness of the Red Sea. What's the wilderness? Well, this is wilderness of the Red Sea because you got the Gulf of Aqaba and the Gulf of Suez on both sides. It's the wilderness of the Red Sea because there's a Red Sea on both sides of it. So it's nothing but wilderness. I've been there. Actually, I've only been in the wilderness one time. But I've been across in Midian 7 times. It's wilderness. It's just dry, desolate. Then he said, speaking to the children, that they turned. Now they're in the wilderness of the Red Sea. Turned and camped before Pi-hahiroth. What's P? Mouth. Pi-hahiroth, mouth of the gorges. Between Migdol. What's Migdol? Tower. A tower. And the sea over against Baal-zephon. What's Baal-zephon? Baal means Lord. Zephon means north. It's translated north in the King James Version 153 times out of 153 times. Guess what it means? North. Okay? Before it you shall encamp by the sea. For Pharaoh will say to the children of Israel, they're entangled in the wilderness. It shut them in. He'll say, go down this Pi-hahiroth, mouth of all these gorges, come out this mouth right here. This is Nuweiba Beach. Between Migdol, these mountains drop off in water here and here. But here you got 9 square miles of sand and beach. Flat as can be. And there's a little opening right there. Between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon. How do I know Baal-zephon's over in Saudi Arabia? How do I know that? Because when the Israelites were about to cross the Red Sea, they go and camp in Moab over against Jericho. Where was Jericho? On the other side of the Jordan. So Baal-zephon's on the other side of the Red Sea. Okay, remember that. Lord of the north. What comes out of the north? I'll show you a scripture. Cold cometh out of the north. Here's another picture of it. There's the wadi that opens, and look, 9 square miles for 2 million people to camp, because they can't go this way. It's mountains dropping. They can't go. No, it's a dead end. He led them into a trap, and the only way is out is here, right here. You can't go anywhere else. And so about 600 royal chariots and all the chariots of Egypt are coming down this way, and we're going to read where he goes from before them. He led them to this spot. Go behind and block that wadi. Just a pillar would block the wadi. No big deal. Doesn't need to be big. Just needs to be a pillar. But the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army. Overtook them encamping by the sea beside Pi-hahiroth before Baal-zephon. What it means before? It means they're facing east toward Saudi Arabia. And the angel of God went from before the camp of Israel and removed, went behind them, and the pillar of cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. It came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. It was a cloud and darkness to them, because the wicked walk in darkness, they know not what they stumble. But it gave light by night to these, so that one came not near the other all at night. Here's what it looks like. Boom, just a pillar with black. Here they're coming down this wadi. Boom, just a pillar with black there. That's it. There's the Red Sea, and there's Saudi Arabia over there. About 8 miles crossing. By the way, you can't see any dead bodies 8 miles across. You can see them right at your feet. Remember that. That's how the Lord provided. So there it is. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry, and the water, it didn't say land, it's dry. It was dry ice. And the waters were divided, and the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry, and the waters were a wall to them to the right hand. Why was it a wall? Because it says, I'm going to jump ahead to tell you, well, Miriam danced right here. In Exodus 15, Miriam, Moses' sister, was dancing. She was his older sister. She said, with the blast of her nostrils, the waters were gathered together, the flood stood upright as a heap, and the depths were congealed in the heart of the sea. That word congeal, I'm going to show you. I'll just jump ahead. That it means right here. The guy that was the number one, he had I forgot what he was, but David Moyel, he was a rabbi in Israel. He was given offered a job, but he decided to move to Texas and start a synagogue over here. And he says, the deep raw, he told me, he's a Hebrew, obviously, speaks him. Today in daily Hebrew, kafu, which is what was translated congealed, has the same meaning today. He said the depths are congealed. What he was saying was, in Hebrew, the depths are frozen. Why? Because a strong east wind came from Baal Zephon, Lord of the north. Now what comes out of the north? It says cold cometh out of the north. If you don't believe me, go to Canada right now and check it out. So so here let's go back to this thing. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, his horsemen. Now remember, they were stuck over in this, they were stuck up here. And it was cloud and darkness to them. It's a night crossing, by the way. They crossed the sea at night. And the pillar of fire blocked that wadi because it just took a pillar to block it. It was cloud and darkness to the Egyptians, but it was fire and light to the Israelites all that night. Why? Because they could see where they're going and keep them warm as they're passing through 2 walls of ice. But as it passed between 2 walls of ice, it was sucking the Egyptians in further and further. Because see, the 9th plague was darkness that could be felt. But that plague finally went away after 3 days, so they're waiting for it to go away, but it starts moving, so they figured it's going to just it's moving. It again sucked into the middle of the Red Sea. But what they don't realize is, it's fire and light to the Israelites, it's melting the walls of ice. By the time they get through, the last chariots in the middle of the Red Sea, it's too muddy to get back. Then he looks through the pillar, we're going to read that. He looks through the pillar of fire and cloud and troubles the host of Egypt, and takes off their wheels that they drave them heavily. Egyptians pursued, and they came in the morning. They came to pass in the morning watch. Yahweh looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and troubled them, and took off their chariot wheels that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel. For Yahweh fighteth for them against the Egyptians. But they couldn't flee, because it was too muddy in the back, and their wheels were gone in front. They couldn't go anywhere. They had a divine revelation. By the way, here's the underground land bridge. They're on that big beach right here, and you look, it gets a mile deep all the way up to Nuweiba. Up to Eilat, Israel, and gets over a mile deep down here. But right there is a land bridge in the middle of the Gulf of Aqaba. And this, I didn't make this up. These are pictures that they got. And with the blast of thy nostrils, I explained that. The depths were congealed, so it's frozen. But as this pillar of fire is passing through the middle of the walls of ice, it's melting the walls of ice till finally, when the walls collapse, they would collapse from the Egyptian side first. And it says right here, thou didst blow with thy wind, the sea covered them. They sank as lead in the mighty waters. Thus Yahweh saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. You can't see Egyptians dead 8 miles across back in Egypt, because they weren't there. The waters collapsed from the Egyptian side first, had more time to melt, and forced their dead bodies up. And it was gun control. The slaves had no weapons, so they took the swords off them because they were driving chariots and fought Amalek a few days later. So the Lord provided. See, the Lord provides. So you got to believe that. And then he sings some more songs. He says, thou shalt bring them in, plant them in the mountain of thine inheritance, in the place, O Yahweh, which thou hast made for thee to dwell in the sanctuary, O Lord, which thy hands have established. So he's going to do a sanctuary in Israel. The Lord shall reign forever. The horse of Pharaoh went in with his chariots and his horsemen. No, Yul Brynner didn't escape. No, they really went in. Pharaoh and his horses went into, and the Lord brought again the waters of the sea upon them, but the children of Israel went on dry, I believe ice, it was frozen in the midst of the sea. Now out of the south cometh the whirlwind, and cold cometh out of the north, Job says. I think he knows. By the breath of God, frost is given, and the breath of the waters was straightened. So he's cold. Casted forth ice like Moses. Who can stand before his cold? The Red Sea couldn't. It got frozen. Stood upright and froze stiff. He sendeth his word, melted them. He causes his wind to blow. Okay, now Baal Zephon. Here, look, I want you to show this. Out of 153 times, guess what Zephon means? North. Who's the Lord of the north? Who's the real Lord of the north, south, east, west? God. So he caused a strong east wind to come from the north. No, east wind to come from the Lord of the east wind to come from the north. Why? Because cold cometh out of the north, and he froze the waters left and right. So every word is important in this. My man, David Moyel, he's a good guy. He's a Jew. You know, he's got a few wives and stuff because, you know, he's really old Jewish synagogue guy. You know, but he believed this because I was just quoting the scriptures, and he believed me, and so he let me get his little congregation across the Red Sea, and they were all Jews. None of them believed in Jesus, but of course I told them all about Yeshua, you know. But anyway, at thy rebuke they voice, like thunder they haste. At thy rebuke, O God of Jacob, both the chariots and the horse are cast into deep sleep. He divided the sea and caused them to pass through, and he made the waters to stand as a heap. These different script, more witnesses throughout the Bible. He brought them forth also with silver gold. There was not one feeble person among their tribes. Egypt was glad when they departed, for the fear of them fell on them. You better believe they couldn't wait. But then they changed their mind. They changed their mind because, you see, when they left, and it took them about 7 days to get to the Red Sea, that's why the seventh day is always a high Sabbath on unleavened bread. Why? Because it commemorates the crossing of the Red Sea. So it took about 6 days or so to get to the Red Sea, cross the Sinai Peninsula. And then they sucked up and they started going after him because they realized, wait a minute, who's going to build the pyramids now? Our kids are dead, but that's been a few days. And now realization said, we got to get our pink selves out there and do all that hard. We're missing the slaves, you know. So that's why they all got together and went to go get them. Moses went up to God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel. Y'all children of Israel, y'all been born again? Okay. You saw what I did to the Egyptians, huh? I'm bad. You better do what I say or else. That's what he said. How I bear your wiggles and brought you myself. So let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Just fear God and keep his commandments. It's the whole duty of man. You saw what he did to the Egyptians. Not one escaped. The Lord looking from heaven, he beholdeth all the sons of men from the place of his habitation. He looketh on all the inhabitants of the earth. So here's a picture, and look at that. This gigantic satellite picture, you can still see the beach right there. Amazing. I mean, it sticks out. Now here Isaiah comes along about 300 years after Solomon, says, in that day there shall be an altar to Yahweh in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to Yahweh. And it, the pillar, shall be for a sign and a witness to the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. Okay? Why? Because God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding, exceeding much, and largeness of the heart, even as the sand that is on the seashore. So what does he do? He puts a pillar on the sand of the seashore. Watch. Solomon's wisdom extolled all the wisdom of the children of the east country, that's one side of the Gulf of Aqaba, and all the wisdom of Egypt, the other side. And Solomon made affinity with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David until he made an end of building his own house and the house of Yahweh and the wall of Jerusalem round about. Besides that, he had of merchants and of the traffic spice, and of all the kings of Arabia and of all the governors of the country. In other words, he had peace with everybody. So he could put a pillar on the Egyptian side because he married Pharaoh's daughter, put a pillar on the Saudi Arabian side because all of them brought him gifts. Everybody loved the guy. It was told the king of Egypt that they fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants were turned against people, and they said, why have we done this? Why have we let Israel go? And he made ready his chariots. There's not one idle word in the Bible. Pharaoh made ready his chariot. It's got his name on it, I believe, in gold, that does not rust in seawater after 3,500. No, gold doesn't rust in seawater. I believe it's got his name on it. And he took 600 soldiers up and captains over everyone. Now, he said, for this very cause, I think the scriptures here, I should have quoted it, but he told Pharaoh, for this very cause I raised you up, that my name be proclaimed throughout all the earth. Well, he's going to raise up, I believe he's going to allow the chariot to be raised up with his name on it. So I say, God did that to the most powerful man on earth. Serve him. Or else. So Solomon comes along. Well, Solomon's the wisest human in history. None after you will be as wise as you. That's what God told him. Solomon reigned all the kingdoms from the river of the land of Philistines unto the border of Egypt. They brought presents, served Solomon all the days of his life. For he had dominion over all the region on this side of the river, and all the kings on this side of the river, and he had peace on all sides. And God gave him wisdom and understanding, exceeding much, and largeness of heart, again, even as the sand that is on the seashore. Now, his buddy was a widowed son of a tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of tile working brass, and he was filled with wisdom, understanding, cunning, to work all works in brass. He came to King Solomon and wrought all his work. For he cast 2 pillars of brass of 18 cubits high each, a line of 12 cubits around did compass each. He set the pillars up in the porch of the temple, set one on the right and one on the left, called Jachin, and the left pillar was called Boaz. In the plain of Jordan did he cast them, in the clay ground between Sukkot and Zotham. King Solomon, so he did that. Then Solomon made a navy of ships at Ezion-Geber, which is probably Aqaba, which is beside Elat, which is in Israel right next door, on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom, which is Jordan, the country of Jordan right now. Hiram sent in the navy of servants, shipmen, that had knowledge to sea with the servants of Solomon. Hiram sent unto Solomon, saying, I have considered the things which thou sendest me to. I will do thy desire concerning timber of cedar and concerning timber of fir. My servant shall bring them down from Lebanon unto the sea, and I, Hiram, the Phoenician sailor, will convey them by sea in floats unto the place that thou appoint me, will cause them to be discharged there, and thou shalt receive them, and thou shalt accomplish my design, giving me food for my household. So Solomon sent them food up there, and he fed them, and they brought all these ships by floats down to Joppa, it says, later on. And Joppa they conveyed it, and they built the walls and the roofs of cedar, the rafters and the floor of fir, all from Lebanon, outside of Israel. And the king commanded, and they brought great stones, costly stone, huge stone to lay the foundation of the house. Solomon builders and Hiram builders, a Gentile, did hew them in the stone squares, so they prepared timber and stones to build the house. Now I'm showing you again another picture, satellite picture. And you can see a little white spot. That's Nueva Beach. That's why the Lord prepared a place for them to camp. Here's another different picture. And you can see it right there. Nothing but mountains dropping off in water everywhere. That's the only place they could go. It wasn't by the way of the Philistines. It was way south of the Philistines. When you look at this, I mean, come on. Picnic area right there. And it's a dead end. They can't go anywhere else. They're at a dead end. A lot of people feel we're at a dead end. Okay, now, what did I do? I went down to Egypt in 2000. The only time I've ever been to Egypt, I'm only going to be there a few days. So what I did was I borrowed a 55-gallon drum from a guy, turned it upside down, then I got a skinny ladder from a Bedouin, tied it to the pallet right there and pulled myself. I was looking for Made in Israel on the top. I didn't see anything on the sides, okay? And I threw my camera down, my little 36-shot camera, and the guy took my picture. And but what I did was, this is the way it looked when I found it. There's a gigantic beach. There's the sea. There's Saudi Arabia over there. Look, this pillar, and it looks like it's going to fall. Where did this pillar come from? In 1978, Ron Wyatt and his 2 teenage sons, this is before he did anything in Israel. He went to Turkey to find Noah's Ark. Then he took his sons down in 78 to go there. And he dove on the Egyptian side, and he looked around and he saw this pillar laying in the water off the shore with waves beating on. He said, this is an important artifact. The Israelis occupied the Sinai Peninsula from 1967 after the Six-Day War. They rested on the seventh day. And then to 82, 81 and a half, 82. So in 78, it says the Israelis are still there, and they're building a road to do what? Patrol the border of Egypt. Well, he said this is an important artifact, so they picked it up with their machinery and set it in concrete on the other side of the road they were building to patrol the border of Egypt. So I showed them this picture of me on the pillar. These guys are building a hotel a few miles away. I got them to come over, and you can see it's Arabic writing. I got them to come over with a front end loader after lunch and everything like that. And they bulldozed around, and that's where I left it in the year 2000. Now, Solomon's the wisest human ever. What do you think he'd want to commemorate? The splitting of the Eastern Sea. What year? It's exactly, well, I can show you, it came to pass in the 400, I got to find the scripture. It get cut off. But it came to pass in the 480th year after coming out of Egypt, Solomon starts building the temple. 20 years later, 20 and 480 is 500 in anybody's book in this room. It came to pass at the end of 20 years, that's 20 years later, when Solomon built the two houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house, that King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the Sea of Galilee, and 3 times a year. Okay, then he made a navy of ships at Ezion-Geber, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Israel. And he went down there, and it says, both of them say it. Here, hold on, let me find the other one. And it came to pass at the end of 20 years, this is Chronicles, when Solomon had built a house of the Lord in his own house. Now all the work of Solomon was prepared unto the day of the foundation of the house until it was finished. So the house of the Lord was perfected. Then went Solomon to Ezion-Geber and to Eloth. I believe that's occupied in Eloth today, at the seaside, and the waters. Okay, it says in Job, water wears the stone. That pillar had been in water. It could have been, we know the water level of the Red Sea is higher now than it was before by the side of the land and everything like that. So that's why the pillar on the Egyptian side was in water. And it could have been on the water for centuries. Water, the waves is water. There was no writing on it. Believe me, I climbed to the very top looking for it. And in 2015, right over that lady back there in the very back walking through, Karen, she went over there in 2015, and you can see the dirt still covering the concrete that I bulldozed 15 years earlier. You see that? Look. But there's the 2 pillars. Now, Solomon was instructed by God to build the house of God. God said, I'll dwell in it. But make it just like the temple in the tabernacle in the wilderness. Tabernacle in the wilderness didn't have 2 big pillars in front of it. Did it? No, it didn't. Solomon built 2 big pillars. In fact, he spends 8 straight verses describing Boaz and Rechab, these 2 big pillars. What do the next 4 verses describe? Make a molten sea in front of the temple too. So you got a molten sea and 2 pillars on both sides of the sea. Why? Because 20 years later, that's what he did. He went and put 2 pillars up. Why would you put pillars up? To commemorate something. Why? Because you don't want people to forget. Absalom had no kids. He didn't want people to forget him. He doesn't have kids. So he put Absalom's pillar in the valley of near Jerusalem. And then Rachel was his favorite wife, but she died, so he put Rachel's pillar up to remember that. So they wanted everybody to remember that. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. It came to pass at the end of 430 years, even the self-same day it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. 430 years to the day, remember that. And he began to build in the 2nd day of the 2nd month in the 4th year of his reign. This is Solomon. Now these are the things wherein Solomon was instructed to build. And he reared up the pillars before the temple, one on the right hand and one on the left. So I read that earlier. Anyway, I got more on the pillars right now, but this is one of the, I think this is the last pillar of this thing. You see this pillar, these Muslims sent me this picture. Now this pillar it's not smooth like the other one. It's got, you can see cuts, horizontal cuts all the way down it. The Muslims moved it from the Saudi Arabian side and put it in a Quonset because you can tell the horizontal lines get smaller and smaller as it curves behind it. They hid it because in 1984, Solomon went to the Saudi side without a visa. And him and his 2 teenage sons were incarcerated for 75 days. They finally took him out in the last 75 days or whatever and took him down to the Red Sea Chronicles. He kept saying, I'm just an amateur archaeologist. I'm not a spy. So he saw the pillar there and he recognized Paleo-Hebrew on this one because this one went in the water. It was still standing up. He recognized as Edom, all these different names, and then he recognized in Hebrew Shlomo, which is Solomon, which automatically dated to Solomon after. So when he told that to the Muslims, they don't want anything Jewish over there, so they took it and moved it into a Quonset hut. And I got more pictures of it in a Quonset hut. Now, I didn't find it when I went over there because, well, I think I might have found it. But here's the thing. Isaiah the prophet, about 300 years after Solomon put the pillars up, Isaiah the prophet said, in that day there'll be an altar to Yahweh in the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to lawn. This is Isaiah. Anybody can go to the scriptures, the king's most printed book in the history of humanity, right here. Verse 20, and it, the pillar, shall be for a sign and witness to the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. You need two witnesses. That one on the Egyptian side still standing. One on the Saudi side is not where it should be because they moved it. When I went there in 2000, there I stand, but it looks like it's going to fall over because erosion, all the sand's moved away from the concrete that the Israelis had said. The Israelis were building a road, so they had concrete, so they set it upright in a thing. So I climbed up there, and I showed my picture to the guys. They couldn't believe I got up there. So I hired the guys. They came over, bulldozed, and that's why I left it in 2000. You see the dirt? And then it wore down a little bit, but when you see Karen 15 years later, it's still got a lot of dirt around it. Okay? And this is one of the guys that helped me do it. And there's two of the guys, and the guy that was driving the tractor took this picture. And for $70 and my sunglasses, they did that for me. Okay? And you know, I was waiting over there. No, seriously. I came in my diving suit at first and showed them the picture, say, look, I need you guys, okay? And it was Friday afternoon, and I have to get back to Israel before sundown. So I go to the motel and get my clothes back on. I come back. Come on, let's go. He said, no, just wait here, have some more tea. They kept serving me tea. There was no work being done at the hotel. They weren't doing anything. These were the workers that were building the hotel, wasn't doing anything. And they told me, just relax, right? Wait. And then I realized Isaiah cried concerning the Egyptians. Their strength is to sit still. They're just sitting still like a pyramid. Ever see a pyramid? You know, just nothing was going on. Okay, well, anyway, they finally showed up with a jerry can of diesel, poured it in that front end loader, followed me over there and got it. But I got a Muslim Egyptian to send me this picture of a pillar that they put in a Quonset hut. And that's the same picture I showed you. But here's a picture of a truck hauling a pillar, a big gigantic pillar in Saudi. So they took it out of the ground, hauled it, and put it up in the thing. So these guys couldn't believe I got up the pillar. So after they bulldozed around the thing, they made me get in the front end loader and get on top again. I don't know if anybody's been up there twice, but I've been once, but I've been up there twice. It was done twice to be established as of the Lord, you know. Then I went over and met this guy, Ibrahim, in 2014, my first year of my 5-year visit to Saudi. We went over there, and this marker right here is a marker that this guy found in 96. I forgot his name. He lives in Galveston, just south of us. Anyway, I forgot his name, but anyway, I got to look it up in the phone book. Anyway, this marker right here, they set it there because they moved the pillar because it had Hebrew on it. They didn't want Hebrew in Saudi Arabia on a monument. That shows that the Bible's true. You know, they didn't want that. So they moved, but they did put a marker. And here's what the marker said. Red Sea Coastal Survey and Arabic on the top side. And then Dr. David Kim, this Korean doctor, this really millionaire Saudi, needed the guy. So I was working for him. He went over here and went all over the place in Saudi and got pictures. And here's a picture of the pillar. The marker for the same marker for the pillar. See how it has two signs at 90-degree angle? I can't believe I didn't bring them. But anyway, that's that marker. And the pillar on the Egyptian side is still standing right here. The marker over here is right here. So the strong east wind came from Baal Zephon, but it would have froze them if it went straight on them. So it came at an angle, and they crossed over this way. They crossed over that way, because that's where the other marker was. And there's the Wadi. It's called Wadi Watir. It's just big enough to, it's about 90 feet wide or something like that. Just big enough to get a big pillar to block it. There's two pillars. Now there I am standing in Saudi. You see how the sign is broken off now? And it's pulled out. I put it back in with the rocks. Then the next time I came, it was gone. But anyway, there it is. And I got that broken piece in my toolbox on the back of my truck. Yeah, there it is. It's broken off on this picture. So there you see that. Okay. Now I'm going to go to another thing because I want to show you Arabia, because I did go to Arabia. Now in Arabia, they got a fence around this thing. They say, this is an archaeological area. Well, what's in there? There's no digging or anything. It's just around where the altar of the Lord is and all this stuff at Mount Sinai. It says, it's unlawful to trespass, violators are subject to penalties, stipulations, and antiquities and museums and archaeological heritage regulations passed by royal decree, and the date is, it's in 19-something. You know, when Ron Martin died, I forgot the date, I'm sorry. But anyway, of course the fence is fallen down, not there, but over there, and I just walked right in, no big deal. I mean, there's nobody there. I'm the only humans there, usually. So they departed from Pi-Hahiroth, the mouth of the gorges, who passed through the midst of the sea, and the wilderness went 3 days' journeys to the wilderness of Etham. And then they removed from Marah. It says, and in Elam, where were 12 fountains of water and 10 palm trees, and they pitched there. I want you to remember, now it's 2 witnesses. That's, I think, in Numbers, but here it says, and they came to Elam. This is in Exodus. Where are 12 wells of water and 10 palm trees, and they camped. So 2 witnesses says there's 12 wells and 12 wells of water and 10 palm trees. I went to Elam. This is the Red Sea, about 3.5 miles away. Here I'm coming down in my rental car. And there's Elam, where there are exactly 12 wells to this day. My buddy, he's an airplane pilot. He got the GPS on all 12 of them. He sent them to me, but I can't. I'm Bay C before computer, so I got to get him to send them again. But there's 12. Now you think this is big? This is a couple of 100 square miles. Let's get a little bit bigger picture to see if there's any trees or grass anywhere in Saudi Arabia. By the way, that's the Red Sea right here. That picture is looking this way right here. Goes all the way here to there, all the way to here. So now here's a bigger picture. See, I'm getting closer. But do you see any greenery or any trees or any grass anywhere? No. No, there's none. I got even a bigger picture. Oh, that's what it looks like close up. I think I couldn't count all the trees, but it seems like there's more than 70 trees, but there's still only 12 wells. Look at that. No grass here, 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 here. No, just right there. At Elam, that's Elam. Where were 12 wells and 70 palm trees. 3,500 years ago. That's a long time ago. And still, that's still the same. Now, I'm going to get real big on you. There it is. See any greenery anywhere? 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 Oh, there's Jabal el-Lawz. That's Mount Sinai. Any greenery anywhere? No. That's why he called it the desolate wilderness. You know how long Moses lived in Saudi Arabia? He lived 120 years. How long did he live there? 80. 2/3 of his life he spent there. It was insane. Okay, so here's another picture, even bigger. And there it is right there. I can enlarge it. And there's Jabal el-Lawz. Look, still no trees or grass anywhere. The only trees you see is that little clump of green trees right there at Elam. I can enlarge it, show you. But anyway, okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, and Moses wrote all the words of the Lord. Verse 4, down here. He rose up early in the morning and built an altar under the hill. Now there's Mount Sinai, and then there's a hill right before Mount Sinai. And 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. That's what it says he did in Exodus. There's the pillar. This is right on the, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of the 12 pillars are still there. There's nobody there. There's no picnic tables or nothing there. Just me taking the picture. Well, I got this picture from the satellite. Here's a close-up of them. 4 pillars, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9. But you say, yeah, but where's the other 3? Well, Reuben, Gad, Manasseh were on that side of the river for 700 years before Syria carried them away. They probably grabbed their pillars. But there's still 9 pillars. And then when I'm standing by the pillars, I'm pointing up to the hill before, there's Mount Sinai. It's black. It's the highest mountain in northwest Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is 2.5 times bigger than the biggest state we're living in, Texas. And there ain't no grass or trees. But there's the pillar that Elijah went to, and there's the blackened mountain up there. It's all black. You go up there and pick up, they're black. You pick them up, they're tan like the rest of Saudi Arabia. See, it's black. And there's the cave that Elijah went to about 700 years later. And the Lord said unto Moses, go before the wind, take thy rod. Behold, I'll stand before thee upon the rock in Horeb. Thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come forth water, and the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of, and called that place Massah and Meribah. Okay, so there's the rock. Now this I'm going to show you where this is. It's almost halfway. It's halfway between the Red Sea and Mount Sinai, but it's 60 feet high, and I can fit right through there. How do I know? Because I climbed it. Hold on. There's my rental car. Actually, that's Andrew Jones's rental car. I drove it and helped him. There it is, and I had to walk up. Now, I'm a little tired, but how often are you in Saudi? So I did walk up to the top. See, because it's kind of hard. You got to walk over boulders and everything to get to the top. And it's 32. I walked 10 feet down. I realized, wait a minute, I got to take a picture of where this is. It's 3,200 feet above sea level. It's about, I forgot how many miles, 12 or 18 miles off the Red Sea, but it's that far above sea level. There I am at the top. You can fit all the way through that. Water, and you see, I don't have a good picture of it, but you can see how, wait a minute. You can see how the water wears the stone on the base of that thing. Man, I got a lot of pictures. Oh, I see. Oh, I got it. Hold on. Okay. Anyway, there's Randall Lee. Now, Randall Lee I met in 2002. We went on Israel. 2003, we went on a dig with the Wyatt Group. Married L. Wyatt. Ron Wyatt's widow was there. He met her, married her in 2004. He's been with her. He's still with her right now. And I'm praising the Lord. Okay, now there's that same rock, and here's an altar we found not far from the rock. Notice there's nobody out there. It's desolate wilderness. There's nobody there, except for characters like me looking for stuff. And then that's Andrew Jones, and that's Randall Lee. That's the guy that married Marion L. Wyatt, and there's Andrew Jones. Andrew Jones is a 42-year-old Seventh-day Adventist that he knew Ron Wyatt. So he's been over to Saudi and all kind of stuff. And there's the pile of rocks. I'm holding the picture of, it used to be that, I know you can't see it. Okay, well anyway. I have a picture of it when it was the rod sticking up, and now it's just a pile of stones. It's gone. And that's me at nighttime years earlier. I met that guy my first trip in Saudi. I've stayed at his house. He's a Muslim Arabic guy. Now I'm standing there with the thing broken.
That rock was the rock that Moses struck?
Yeah, no, it's the rock. He was told to hit that thing and it split. But later on, he was told to speak to the rock. But he got impatient and he hit it twice. Now he couldn't go. Why couldn't he go into the promised land because of that? Because he made it to where Yeshua had to be smitten twice. Because they smote him and slew him and hung him on a tree. The Romans did, and then the Roman soldier smote him again in fire, and water came out. You see, that's why the water didn't come out till the second time it smote him. That's why water came out of his belly. Because, okay, now that's the pilot that has the thing. He's an airplane pilot. That's the guy that's been, knew Ron Wyatt's been going over there. That's Marion L. Wyatt's husband, and that's me. We're outside of a cafe in Saudi, and that's it right now. If y'all got any questions or anything about this, or any pictures, I think that's the last one that I got ready. But I'm just saying, the scriptures paint a picture, and you go there, and it's exactly like the Bible explains. Even though it explained it 3,500 years, it's still true. So maybe it'll be true for billions of years too, huh? You think so? You better serve the Lord with fear and rejoice. Again, I better say rejoice with trembling.
Do you have any pictures from your dives? Any underwater pictures of the chariot wheels?
No, I do have some video, but no, I don't have any. I didn't see any chariot wheels. I mean, I dove and dove and dove, but I didn't get any things that I can say for absolute sure. But Vivica Partine is a Swedish lady. I met her. She dove there with that man in 1995, the guy that I saw looking at the rod that the Muslim put. She dove 6 times. He was a deep sea diver. He was over there working for a company. Now he lives in down by Galveston. And she took pictures. Ron Wyatt never dove on the Egyptian side. on the Saudi side, but he told her, just take pictures. She took, and there's another wheel that she took a picture of on the Saudi side. She's got that on. You can go to Wyatt's museum.
What about the word that the Lord spoke to you and gotten started on all this? Do you think that's still to be fulfilled?
Well, yes, I can, but I've been to Saudi Arabia 7 times. Remember, he told that guy, go back 7 times. The 8th time he went, he saw a hand like a cloud, like a hand come out of the water. He said, now it's going to rain. It didn't rain 7 times he went, but the 8th time he said, go. He's on his way and it started raining like crazy because they had no rain for 3.5 years. I've been over there 7 times in 7 years. Pretty soon it'll be 7.5 years. 7 years, so it's time for me to go again. I had a 5-year visa. It expired in 2019 in May, I think. May or June or July. Anyway, it expired, so it's been over 7 years since I first went to Saudi. But I've been 7 times. I want to go the 8th time and really find it. But I need help because, all my equipment stuff, some of the equipment I brought over there didn't work when I get there, and you're in Saudi Arabia, what are you going to do, It's kind of rough. They don't have equipment like that. So I got to have something that can find metal in the water or something, underwater. Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, that's true. Anything else? Any other questions or anything? Okay, well, if he did that, now he did that 2,500 years after creation, but 3,500 years before he can come back. But Solomon, the wisest human in history, commemorated it at exactly 3,000 years, halftime. I'm a football guy. So he commemorated the splitting of the eastern sea at 3,000. So at the end of 6,000, he's going to split the eastern sky. That which has been is that which shall be, no new thing under the sun. If you believe that, stay tuned. It's coming soon. Okay? Well, aren't you thankful I got you safely across the Red Sea? I hope you enjoyed it. The Word of God illuminates. It's like paints a picture, and now you saw the pictures yourself, that every word of God is true and nothing to be refused. Thank you for allowing me to come into your life and show you the truth.